The draft lottery is rapidly approaching. We have our primer as to what you can expect for the New York Islanders. Plus, we begin our player-by-player review of the season, starting today with Kieffer Bellows. All that and more coming up on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast.
Your Locked On Islanders, your daily podcast on the New York Islanders. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And welcome, everybody, to the Monday edition of the Locked On Islanders podcast. So glad you could be with us today, and thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen every day. We are free and available on all platforms. Today's episode is brought to you by BetOnline. BetOnline has you covered this season with more props, odds, and lines than ever before. BetOnline, where the game starts. We have got a lot to discuss on today's show, but first, if there's something Islanders related on your mind, if you have a question, a comment, maybe a topic you'd like us to discuss on the show, feel free to send us an email. The email address, lockedonislanders@gmail.com. And if you leave your first name and where you're from, we're happy to mention you on the show when we talk about whatever it is that's on your mind. Also, you could follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Isles, and you could follow me, Gil Martin, on Twitter at Ice Wars, NYRVSNYI. We'll keep you up to date on all the latest Islanders news, notes, and happenings throughout the offseason, the draft lottery, the draft, free agency, trade rumors, you name it. We will have it covered if it's related to your New York Islanders. We have got a lot to discuss on today's show, and let's start with a little bit of news. Again, the Islanders getting things ready for the offseason, and part of it we found out. Kieffer Bellows will be joining Team USA for the World Championships. Now, obviously, you don't want to be in the World Championships, because if you're in the World Championships, it means your team did not make the playoffs. But that being said, having Kieffer Bellows go there and essentially compete for Team USA is just good experience for Kieffer Bellows, and it will allow him to get some more experience against top quality opponents and basically, hopefully, keep the momentum going that he had late in the season. Now, we're going to talk a lot more about Kieffer Bellows later on in the show, because he is the first player we'll be doing on our player-by-player review. By the way, Bellows did represent Team USA back in 2017, 2018, had 9 goals and 1 assist in 7 games back then. So obviously that is a big deal for, a very strong performance there by Kieffer Bellows. And look, that's more or less what you want out of Bellows when push comes to shove. You get him there and you have him perform against some of the best, and that's good. Meanwhile, Mathew Barzal will join Canada's roster for the 2022 Men's IIHF World Championships. And again, the minor concern you have is you don't want anybody to get hurt. You don't want injuries to take place, but I think this is more important for Bellows, who's younger and is yet to establish himself as a full-time part of the Islanders' day-to, game in and game out roster, than it is for Barzal. Barzal, look, great. He's representing Canada. That's a good thing. We want that. But at the same time, Barzy really doesn't have a lot to prove, whereas for Bellows, this is a chance for him to show what he can do. And I think to show Lou Lamoriello and Barry Trotz also what he's capable of doing over the long run. So we've got our fingers crossed about that. And, it's something that I think will be beneficial to Bellows for years to come. And that's a good thing, an opportunity for him, and hopefully he will take it. Now, the draft lottery, NHL Draft Lottery, also coming up soon. It will be held Tuesday at 7 o'clock Eastern time, and we will have a live reaction show to the draft lottery Tuesday night on YouTube. We'll have more information tomorrow on the podcast. But again, if you subscribe to our YouTube channel, check that out because it's great to have the live reaction show, and we'll answer your questions if you send them in the group chat during the live broadcast. It should be great, and we are definitely looking forward to the live show. We did a live show at the trade deadline. That was very successful. This one should be at least as good. And here's the thing about the draft lottery. Right now, the Islanders are slated to pick 13th in the draft overall. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, the way the weighted lottery works, the team with the worst record has the best chance. So the Islanders will have the 13th most number of ping pong balls in the draft lottery shoot. So we'll see how it goes, but here's the deal. The Islanders can only move up 10 spots. That's the rule. So if the Islanders win the lottery, they will move up to third in the draft, third overall pick. So they have a 2.6% chance of getting the third pick, a 1.7% chance of getting the second pick, which is really going to be the fourth pick. And there is, unfortunately, a better mathematical chance, about a little more than a 5% chance, that somebody behind the Islanders wins either the first or second spot and leapfrogs the Islanders and pushes them back from 13th to, let's say, 14th overall. Now, you got to sort of realize 13, 14, that kind of a pick, usually you're not going to get a player who is going to contribute as a rookie. That most NHL first-round draft picks, with the exception of, the first or second overall pick, you tend not to get the player who's going to be inserted into the lineup at the NHL level right away. And, the Islanders roster right now has players who were taken in the mid-teens. Noah Dobson was 12th overall. Took him 2 years to get to the NHL, and then another year before he became a relied-upon player. Ryan Pulock, took him 3 years. He was the 15th overall pick. Mathew Barzal was a 16th pick, took him 3 years. You want to go back even further? Well, let's talk about Zach Parise. He was a 17th pick, took him 3 years also. So don't expect that the player the Islanders draft this year, unless they somehow do win the lottery and move up to third or fourth, is going to be an immediate contributor, and yet it could make a big difference in 2 or 3 years for this team. Remember, the Islanders are an older team, and to get a talented young player who will be ready in 2 or 3 years would be an outstanding addition for the New York Islanders. We've got a lot more to discuss on today's episode. When we come back, we will have our look at Kieffer Bellows, his season, what it meant, how he fits into the future of the Islanders, all that and more coming up on this episode of the Locked On Islanders podcast. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for all your betting stats and sports info. You can find all the latest sports developments, league reviews, and news, including this year's basketball playoffs, the Stanley Cup playoffs, Major League Baseball, And hey, you had a big chance to bet on the Kentucky Derby. We had a long shot come in. Still 2 more races in the Triple Crown, and all the information about betting on it is at BetOnline. BetOnline is your continued source for all your sports wagering information, from live betting to playoffs, esports, and more. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more about the trends and action. BetOnline, where the game starts. Thank you for making Locked On Islanders your first listen. For your next listen, check out the Locked On Now podcast. Nightly recaps of every NHL game with an analysis from our local experts. It'll get you through the playoffs. It's free and available wherever you get podcasts. So we wanted to look at Kieffer Bellows. He's going to be the first player that we examine this year as we begin our player-by-player review of the 2021-2022 season. And look, Kieffer Bellows is sort of in that middle spot right now. He is 23 years old. He'll be 24 in June. And, this year he set career highs in almost every category. 45 games played, more than he played in the NHL in his previous 2 seasons. 6 goals, that doubles his previous career high of 3. 13 assists, well, he never had more than 1 in a season before this season. 19 points, he never had more than 3. So across the board, even the penalty minutes, 19 of those, his previous high was 4 penalty minutes. He played in more than triple the number of games he had in any other season, and yet he still played only a little more than half of the games that the Islanders had this year. Now, 2 of his 6 goals were game winners, and that's pretty impressive. And the thing I like, 79 shots in 45 games. He only averaged 11 minutes and 52 seconds of ice time this year per game, which, again, not a lot. Now, some of the time he was on the 4th line. He really was sort of a man without a home, in the sense that he was sometimes on the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, occasionally even on the 1st line, but really didn't seem to have a place where he felt at home. He had 103 hits in 45 games, and that's not a bad number, although you think of Bellows as sort of a possible power forward, and you would hope for more. Bellows tends to be a little bit streaky, and part of the problem with that is he'll play in a couple of games and then he'll go 2, 3, 4, 5 games without playing, which makes it tough for a young player to get into a rhythm. And then the other thing is, not getting a lot of playing time. Second game of the season, he only played 5 minutes and 58 seconds in an overtime loss. I would say roughly 35% of the time, roughly a third of his games, he played less than 10 minutes in a game. And again, it just makes it harder. Now, the key for Bellows, we all know he's capable of going to the net, of trying to set screens, of being sort of that bigger, more physical forward. But he has to prove that he can consistently do that job against NHL competition, number one. And number two, what he does without the puck is really the difference in the Barry Trotz system for the New York Islanders. So playing good positional defense, back checking, he's getting better at that, but he still doesn't quite have the trust level of some of the other players in this lineup. And look, part of that is Kieffer Bellows' lack of consistency. Part of that is Barry Trotz just takes a long time to learn how to trust the younger kids. The encouraging thing about Kieffer Bellows, he finished the season strong, and that is what you want to see. In last 10 games, he had 6 points, 2 goals, 4 assists, 20 shots on goal, 31 hits, 6 block shots, 2 assists even on the power play, and still only played about 12 minutes a game. If he can pick up roughly where he left off, and he can do that over the course of a full 82-game season, that is sort of the next big step for Kieffer Bellows. Now, Bellows, his contract expires July 1st. So the Islanders are going to have to re-sign him. His entry-level contract is going to be ending, but he's not just free to go anywhere as long as the Islanders make him a qualifying offer. So I would expect Kieffer Bellows to be back with the Islanders next year. And the key for Bellows is going to be to establish a permanent role on this team. The Islanders need Kieffer Bellows to be, even if it's the third line, even if it's like Pajot, Parise, and Bellows as the third line, that's a solid physical trio of 3 guys who could all give you 15 to 20, maybe even on a good day, 22, 24 goals, and give you that sandpaper and grit. That would be the next step forward. Play more minutes per game and play almost, if not every game. So if we can get Kieffer Bellows next year to 70-plus games played, to 15 or more goals, to 35 or more points, and to, let's say, 14, 15 minutes at least of ice time a game, I think that is what we would think is the next step forward for Kieffer Bellows. And you know what? I believe, based on what I've seen of him, if he puts in a good offseason, works on his strength a little bit, works on his game a little bit, has a strong training camp, he's more than capable of getting that done. And it just becomes a question of, will he? Now, part of it is going to depend on who the Islanders acquire in the offseason, whether that's by trade, whether it's signing a free agent, whether they lose any players through retirement, trades, or free agency. All of that will be part of the equation. But I am optimistic about what Kieffer Bellows can do, and I still think he should have a role going forward in the future of this New York Islanders team. When we come back, we have our Islanders birthday of the day, and yes, it is a player on the current team. So let's see if you can guess who that is. Today's episode is brought to you by your friends at Built Bar. Summer is coming, and with summer, you're going to need some food on the go. Built Bars are the perfect snack to take with you on family vacations. Just throw them in your bag and your kids' backpacks. Make sure everybody has a bar so you're fueled for your summer adventures. And look, Built Bars are healthy and delicious. There's no need to sacrifice delicious food for health. With a Built Bar, you can have both, and it's easy. All you have to do is go to Built.com and order now. All Built Bars and Built Bar Puffs are covered in 100% real chocolate. And look, have you tried the Puffs? We're going crazy for them. They come in great flavors like banana cream pie and even churro. Who doesn't love a protein bar that tastes like a churro? And they only have 140 calories, so sign me up. Most Built Bars contain just 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, 4 net carbs, but they pack 17 grams of protein. Compare that to a candy bar, which usually has around 240 calories, 30 grams of sugar, and dozens of net carbs. Go to Built.com, use the promo code LOCKED15 to get 15% off your order. That's promo code LOCKED15 for 15% off at Built.com. Time now for our Islanders birthday of the day. And Sunday was the 33rd birthday for Islanders winger Matt Martin. The native of Windsor, Ontario, was originally drafted in the 5th round by the Islanders back in 2008. And in his last season in juniors, 2008-2009, Martin scored 35 goals and had 65 points in 61 games for the Sarnia Sting of the OHL. Made his Islanders debut for 5 games during the 2009-2010 season. Stayed with the Isles through 2015-2016. Spent 2 years in Toronto and then returned to the Islanders in 2018-2019 and has been with them ever since. His best season offensively, a 10-goal, 19-point campaign in 2015-2016, which was his contract year. But you know what? The best output for Matt Martin, the 2019-2020 playoffs in the bubble, 5 goals and 6 points in 22 games that year, including some big ones. Matt Martin, for a fourth-line player, for a guy who usually is going to score single digits in goals, has played in 817 NHL games, 70 goals, 149 points, and 1,052 penalty minutes. Add 7 goals, 12 points in 79 playoff games and 115 penalty minutes. Martin is a heart and soul kind of a player. He gives you an all-out effort game in and game out. He is close to the team and league leads in hits when he's healthy, and he is sound positionally, good on the forecheck. He does all the little things and the intangibles that you want right. We're going to go back and look at one of Matt Martin's better games with the Islanders. Memorable game, June 19th, 2021, a playoff game at the Nassau Coliseum. Game 4, Islanders and the Lightning from last year's playoffs. And it was the Islanders getting on the board first in the second period after Andrei Vasilevsky and Semyon Varlamov had a goalie duel through the first. Josh Bailey got the Islanders on the board, his 6th to the playoffs from Brock Nelson and Anthony Beauvillier at 5:30. Islanders up 1-0. Later in the second, Mathew Barzal scored his 6th from Cal Clutterbuck and Adam Pelech at 13:46. And then our Islanders' birthday of the day, Matt Martin, his 1st from Clutterbuck and Pelech at 17:57. Islanders led 3-0 after 2. But in the third, the defending Stanley Cup champion Tampa Bay Lightning made it closer. Braden Point, who killed the Islanders throughout the playoffs, his 12th from Andre Palat and Eric Cernak. That made it 3-1. And then at 6:43, just a little less than 3 minutes later, Tyler Johnson scored his 2nd from Nikita Kucherov and Ryan McDonough to make it 3-2. But the Islanders were able to hold on. Semyon Varlamov, 28 saves to earn the win. But for Matt Martin, our Islanders' birthday of the day, he played almost 11 minutes in the game, scored a goal on his only shot, and yes, it was the game-winning goal. A big moment for Matt Martin. The series was then tied at 2 as the Islanders, after winning game 1 in Tampa and then losing the next 2, managed to even it up and make it a best-of-3 series. Hard to believe it was less than a year ago, but a big playoff moment for Matt Martin and the New York Islanders. Don't forget also the Bridgeport Islanders, the Islanders AHL affiliate, will be in action in their second-round playoff series, and we will cover that from start to finish. We always do our farm report during the season on Wednesday, but we will keep you up to date on everything happening. And remember, Atu Rate, the Islanders' top pick in last year's draft, got the game-winning, series-clinching overtime goal in Game 2 last week. And again, you got Koivula, Salo, Rate, a lot of those younger prospects playing in this series, getting some valuable postseason experience, and that is always good to see. Hope everybody had a great Mother's Day. Wanted to wish all the moms out there a belated happy Mother's Day, as that was yesterday. And don't forget, we will be back tomorrow as we continue our player-by-player look at the Islanders this past season. And don't forget, Tuesday, 7 o'clock Eastern time, our live draft show on YouTube. And I'll post the link for it in advance. But again, subscribe to YouTube and you'll be updated as to when we are going live with the draft lottery reaction show. Something that we're proud to bring you right here on the Locked On NHL Network. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe. And of course, let's go Islanders.